This is your last chance, honey. Banning them down. I don't know what's going on this week because I did a live on Wednesday and it wouldn't let me post it to YouTube. And as far as I can remember, I've never had that problem on StreamYard. But here I am. And by the way, if you ever have a problem finding my podcast on YouTube, don't see them for whatever reason, like if I did a live and it's not showing up there, they are available on Spotify. I do the live interviews always on and interviews with guests on YouTube because everybody was always asking about, well, you should post videos of you doing these interviews. So that's the way I have been doing it for really about I wouldn't even say a year. Yeah, I mean, it's because I started doing, I've done that before, but consistently, I've only been doing that since the beginning of this year. But yeah, check out that podcast. It'll be hitting Spotify next week. If you don't use Spotify, it's anywhere you get your podcast. That was UFC 303 reaction show, I should say. I am here today talking to you fine folks the day after the 4th of July as I sip my iced coffee I struggled to make this morning. So nice to spill coffee when you're half awake. Man, that is the one thing, like, if. But I want you to comment on this most definitely. I'll get the poll going. What is the worst thing you can possibly spill, sober or not? I say coffee because the grounds. Who do they think they are, standing their ground, being on my floor, all messy? But yeah, here today, the day after the 4th of July, saying happy 4th to you. Wearing my Sean Taylor shirt. Shout out to Miami Hurricanes football. And what better way to represent Florida and America than one of the greatest all American animals in football history, and I think a Hall of Fame safety if he would have lived for sure. That guy just took over games, man. If I had to go back and by memory, it's interesting because the other day I was watching clips of a a game back in the day that the Redskins played in 2005, and it lost this game because it was in the playoffs in '05 when they went on that run. For anybody who's a fan of the team remembers that year, that was the one of the two playoff appearances, or one of three playoff appearances they had under Joe Gibbs' second tenure. But I saw Sean Taylor get beaten on a play, and I was like, you know what? I couldn't look back and remember off the top of my head another time he got bested other than the Greg Jones play, but that was in college. That's impressive when your entire career is as short as he was, but you have that kind of impact where in because 4 years is enough time to be like, okay, he had this mistake. This he just took over games, man. I remember in '06, there was a game against the Panthers where he made quite possibly the most clutch tackle I've ever seen, but I think the best tackle of all time to just he perfectly wrapped a guy up to where it was in the open field and he couldn't move at all, got him, but just it was form fitted, perfect tackle that they preach to you from day one at Pop Warner. That's the way you do it. I can go all day about Sean Taylor, but Man, that team is well, they're no more. Different franchise from what it once was, man, even in '05. But I am here today not to talk to you about this, but to talk to you about the NBA draft, which just took place. Obviously, the big story being Bronny James. And it wasn't a surprise to anybody that Bronny was picked by the Lakers, of course. You know why? Because Mr. Cash Cow James is there, and this is not me going in on LeBron because I have an issue with the the worshiping of these people. That's what my concerns are is and you're putting that pressure on a young guy. That's what I don't want to see him get pushed into this too soon. But I think they, in the back of their minds, were going, if he plays another year and he doesn't look as good, I don't know if we should pick him. I'm wondering how this is going to turn out, but I can't hate on the hustle of, I mean, it's going to change up ownership. You know, there's something cooking in LeBron's mind where he's thinking, I'm going to set this up. The angle is going to be that I'm going to get my son taken care of. I'm going to do this for future generations. I'd like to believe that, but I don't really know what LeBron's motives are, but I believe, at least for his family, that's on his mind. But should the Lakers have gone the route of getting a Bronny James? I don't know. I think Nick is not a bad pickup, and they have the tools to be a championship team, even if Bronny is not at his best. But are they going to just make it endlessly about him, even when it's like they didn't do well? Oh, it's because LeBron's old. They did well. Oh, he's the best man. I mean, who's doing it like him? And it's true. I mean, who's doing it like LBJ at that age? Nobody. I mean, it's very rare in sports. That's why they pick why they pay the big bucks to people like Tom Brady and LeBron. It's true, but I just I think they're setting him up for something Kwame Brown, which love him or hate him, good point he made here, and I've watched some of his shows enough to know the history behind him and the media and LeBron and Michael Jordan, Kobe. I know his story, but he made a good point that he was an example as a player of them them meaning ownership. They were pushing him to be the next big thing when he came into the league. And when you make that, I mean, but it's not just him, it's happened with so many people. I mean, with Ryan Leaf, you're talking about just so many athletes that didn't pan out to be what you thought they were going to be, even if they were good, like Andre Bruce. I'm going way back here for the Falcons, played in the league for a long time. That is a lot of pressure you're putting on a young man. Not to mention, oh, all of a sudden you go from having nothing to millions of dollars. Well, Bronny's used to this type of attention. I mean, he's used to media attention because of his dad, at least it being around him, not on him, but around his family. So I think that's not going to get to him. But what I am concerned about is you also have these younger players who are a bit jaded because they feel like I missed out on my opportunity. And that's talking about the ones who didn't make it to the league. But the ones who are in the league, that's what matters. And they're going to want to show this guy, hey, you're here because of your talents. But let's be honest, there's going to be a lot of eyes on you, meaning whether it's true or not, people are going to be thinking that you're getting special treatment. And I think it's setting the guy up for a lot of pressure at a young age. That's my take on this, and we're gonna see where the guy's mind is at because I don't I don't like the JJ Redick pick for their next coach, but do they care what I think? No. I just I don't know where this team is going to go. I mean, but JJ Redick has played the game. It's really going to be, he's going to have a field day setting up all of these scenarios. But I kind of like JJ Redick being there for, like I was saying with them talking about LeBron. Are they painted into a corner because so much attention is on LeBron James's family that when it goes wrong, it's going to inevitably come down on Bronny's head or LeBron's head sometimes? Or are they going to have it be on JJ Redick's shoulders because it's like, well, you're the basketball mind. You have, you've gotten aggressive with people before. You are the one that takes the blame for this. And everybody's sitting there saying they need a tough coach. Is it like they can't get pissed off at JJ Redick because so much pressure is already and so much media attention is on LeBron? I don't know, but I feel like you can blame Redick if this doesn't go right because the guy has no excuses. He's played the game and you have all that talent there. I I don't know how it's going to go. I just don't, but man, this is going to be interesting to see. It's unprecedented. You must say that about this situation, a father and son combination in the league. I mean, there I can't think of any other time in sports where that happened. I know that there have been a lot of kids who have followed in their father's footsteps. Like I was just reading the other day about Corey Stringer, who, for those of you who don't know, was a very promising offensive lineman for the Minnesota Vikings back in the early 2000s when they were at I think Randy Moss's peak in his career was, you could say, New England in '07, but I think it was definitely the early 2000s with the Vikings. They had just the best offense in the NFL, the most flash for sure, other than the greatest show on turf. But he was a promising offensive lineman who played, I think, 5 years, 4 years, something like that. And I mean, this team was picked to win a Super Bowl. eventually. I mean, they went on a tear in 1998 that was exciting football. I was a little too young to really keep up with it, obviously being a 6-year old, but I've watched the highlights, and my dad said that year it was like, who's going to beat the Vikings? Who's going to beat the Vikings? And he thought even the Broncos didn't even, they didn't stand a chance. And Corey Stringer, promising young offensive lineman who had just signed a lucrative deal recently before ultimately meeting his demise, dying of heat stroke. He has a son who is now out of football, but at one time was playing football. And he's been playing the game since he was a little kid, since he was, like whatever, 5 or 6 years old, something like that, very young age. That's your whole life playing. Said, I don't want to follow in I just don't want to do that. It's nothing against, it has nothing to do with his father. If he said that, I don't know if that's true, but I think that it's it does. Honestly, I have a hard time not. I just think that the guy he wanted to have his own identity, and that's what's happening with the Lakers right now. Is a lot of people feel like it's just being pushed and pushed and pushed. Got the hiccups. I don't know. I just feel like we're searching for stories too much when we're not thinking about the team, like Boston. It was an exciting finals if you just like watching team basketball because that's what happened. The Celtics team shined in the finals this year. I don't know. This era of sports that we're in is back in I mean, it's all about flash now. Back in the 90s, there used to be a thing called a bootleg, which was a way that music would get around, stuff that is now so. If you have your hands on some bootlegs nowadays, you're going to make some serious coin. But back in the day, these would get around and you would spread word fast about some great music that you were hearing for the first time. And we need to get word around that it's not all about clout that fast, the way word spread with those, because stuff like this Neon situation, if that's what his name is, that guy that tried to clown Nate Diaz the other day, man, normalize beating YouTubers. You heard it here. You heard what I said. This is ridiculous, the era that we're in. It's just all about attention. This is a different subject, obviously, but man, that made me mad to see that. And him getting chased, that video of him in the car with his bodyguard after that incident. Yeah, man, go ahead. Keep on not listening to the one guy who was trained to save your life in that situation. You go ahead and keep getting your 12-year-old views. Salute to you, Team Diaz. But the other teams in the draft, the Wizards did a very good job. Sarr is a very good pickup. I mean, he played on the Real Madrid cadet team, has a history of playing. I mean, he's been playing since he was a kid. His family, they're connected to basketball. I think that was a smart move on their part. You had the the Minnesota Timberwolves. I mean, they got the I'm trying to remember the name. The guy they picked up, guy who's very good on. I'm confusing him with what's his name, AJ Johnson on the Bucks, who was a damn good player on the perimeter defensively. But I know the Timberwolves had a very good draft. Obviously, there's a window that feels like it's closing for some of these teams to win a championship, and I give them a high grade. Obviously, there's some other teams that were making the news. The Nets didn't have a pick this year. There were middle of the road teams like the Hawks, who I don't know. I feel like you look at some of these cities and you're stunned that they have a team. Like I mean, they used to black out the Jacksonville Jaguars games, and to know where they're at now with Trevor Lawrence, it's amazing to think about 20 years ago where these teams were at. But yeah, guys, I have to give credit where it's due. I think the Lakers had a very good draft. I think if you're gonna judge off of hype, for sure an A. But also, I think their picks that they made, I'd give them an A. The uh, the top three, I'd have to say, because I'll throw some local love in there, but I will not be biased. I'm gonna have to go Los Angeles and then Minnesota, and I was thinking of Dillingham. That's it. And yeah, so LA, Minnesota, and then the Wizards. Trying to rant here as much as I can about the Lakers. That's what this show seems like it is, but it's not. It's just that's the obvious story that dominated this year. We're going to see what happens. I mean, some of these guys are connected pretty well with. There's a player who I was just talking about, AJ Johnson, who's connected to Jalen Green, and there are some guys who are just fought for this on their own. From a young. I don't know if I would say all of them on their own, but some who were just hungry from a young age and came from a bad situation and made their way here. That was the point I was trying to make with Bronny is we're going to see his hunger soon enough here, my friends. Thank you for tuning in once again, folks. I'm out, and make sure you subscribe to Wildcard Arts and Entertainment. Listen to the post game podcast. The Lights Go Down podcast is another show that I do, which has been on hiatus for a little bit this year, but I'm ready to bring it back. Hope you guys like my comedy videos. Some big stand up news is coming, and I can't wait to gift that to you. Let me take my ego cap off. But yeah, I mean, it is big news to me. I have stand up dates that I'm going to be sharing with you, but it's bigger news than that. I think I had said the original plan was to drop it this week. I may have said that in a podcast before, but look out for it early next week, folks. Can't wait to do this again. Please drink and do fireworks responsibly.